Welcome to B2B Marketing Unlocked, the podcast that helps CEOs, business leaders, and marketing executives unlock brand growth. In each episode, I bring on industry experts to share their journeys, lessons learned, and the marketing secrets that drive results, while also sharing my own strategies along the way. I'm your host, Jony Mansilla, founder of Jony Studios, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. I'm really excited for this episode. We have Rich Carter. He's the Chief Growth Officer at Albers Aerospace. Rich, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me this morning. Just like you, I'm very excited for this conversation, and I look forward to talking about one of my favorite topics.
Right on. Why don't you tell me how you got into the current role you're in?
Hey, great question, and it's kind of a funny story. You know, I started out as an engineer, electrical engineering by trade, so got to develop and build stuff. Did that for a number of years. Ironically, as you'll see throughout this episode, I enjoy talking. So it was a natural progression. I went to program management first. So, managing complex programs, delivering stuff to customers. And then ironically, what happened was I was at a company before, Albers Aerospace, and the leader said, "Hey, our BD person or sales and marketing person is leaving the company. Would you be interested in taking this on as like a dual hat role?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll try it." And, it turned out to me, it's all about, which you'll see as we talk here, relationships, building camaraderie with your customer sets and really solving their problems. So going into business development or sales and marketing really became an extension of how can I help customers solve their critical needs in the speed they need it. So that's how I got into this role, and that parlayed into coming over to Albers Aerospace about 2 years ago, really into their growth role to really help grow what we're doing for the customers and solving their problems. So
nice.
That is the journey of how I got there.
And what does Albers Aerospace do, like, for the audience?
Yeah, perfect. So basically, to say very at a high level, we're people first, mission always mindset. So what that means is, John Albers, who was our founder, was a Marine Colonel test pilot. He got out about 10 years ago, and he said, "Hey, I would love to create a company that I wanted to deal with when I was in the government." And what that means is a company is just set up truly to offer a cradle-to-grave solution set for a problem, or if they only need one piece of it in the defense industrial base, help out that piece and do it at the speed they need it. So that is kind of what we pride ourselves in and what we do. So we really expand and go or span over three main areas. So industrials, which is everything if you think of the traditional trades of metal bending, welding, building container solutions, aluminum, you name it, we can do it there. We call it our defense vertical. So really what that means is everything from services to where people can deploy all over the world to maintain, build, operate equipment and services, as well as engineering solutions there. So model-based systems engineering, various engineering disciplines. And then we have what we call advanced programs, which also sits under me in my current role. Think of that as, I'll show that I'm an 80s kid. Think of that as a MacGyver, like the original MacGyver TV series. So it's a customer comes in and says, "Hey, we have this hard problem. Can you guys help solve it in, 90 days? And that's really what drives me and gets me to wake up every morning, is solving problems quickly. And, that's kind of what the ethos is of Albers is and what we do.
That is awesome. What I really feel is unique about your background is that it seems like you really know about the industry and then you moved into marketing. Is that correct? Right? Like you didn't start out learning everything about marketing and then went to the industry. You kind of did it flipped, which I think sometimes has its own advantage in of itself, right?
Yes, I think that's a very fair statement. I'm unique, and to your point, I developed systems and products first, then managed the development of them, then went into the sales and marketing side of selling them and growing them. So to me, I try to first, how I approach, B2B marketing or selling is, like I said, I try to first understand where the problem sets are, where the customer needs to go, and then can tailor solutions to that arena. And I think due to my background, it gives me a unique capability to be able to do that.
100%. And tell me about your marketing team. What does that currently look like? Is it just you, or do you work with other people alongside you?
Perfect. So we split our marketing team into two different buckets. We call it the traditional team. So if you think of, processes, gate reviews, pipelines, which I know a lot of businesses that translates to commercially and on the defense side. That is one set. Very good professionals, Shipley trained. They know how to run all those processes, bid sheets, green teams, all those different things. We then have what we call our advanced programs growth BD team. They're looking two ways. So one, 3 to 5 years out. So, hey, where's technology going? Where are needs going? So what do we have to develop now to have the tools in the toolbox to be able to satisfy those needs to grow the business then? And then also that, which I was talking about earlier, that quick reaction response to where we
Mm.
might get an email, a phone call on a Sunday, a Monday morning and say, hey, we have this urgent problem. Can you help go solve it? So you think about it, that area, you almost have to have the background we just talked about to where you can engineer something quickly, know how long it's going to take to build it, manage it, and then pitch it to either get the award or not. So that's kind of how we split it. Two different groups, more traditional and then more like that quick reaction, also outward thinking group.
Nice. And what would be like your approximate team size, would you say?
So right now from a sales and marketing BD professional team, I'd probably say if you count what we call business ops too, which they're the ones that write the proposals, scour available information of needs that are out there and opportunities, create the pipelines, as well as the BD professionals, I'll call them, that are out marketing, out trying to get the leads, building relationships, about 20 folks.
Nice.
So I would argue we're probably on the smaller side of our size business. I like to say we're a schmedium. And what I mean by that in government speak for your listeners that might not know what that is basically you can be a small business or you become a large business. We are now a large business. But as soon as you get in the large business pool, you're in the same pool with very large companies. So, we're
100%.
definitely not where they might have hundreds of BD marketing professionals. We have 20. So we
Mhm.
rely heavily on AI tools to help where allowed, of course, because AI, I think, is a great equalizer.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, it can help you shred documents. It can help you look for leads very
Mhm.
quickly, as well as just it's all about relationships. So if you do, it's that old saying, if a customer has a good experience, they'll tell 5 people. But if they have a
Yeah.
bad experience, they'll tell 30. I
Yeah.
might have changed those numbers, but to me,
It's
it
so
is
true.
very true. So it's all about that customer experience and
Mhm.
making sure they're satisfied. Another ethos that drives us, I think, how we can level the playing field and play is we always love to say we want a customer to come back to us because they want to, not because they have to. So
Mhm.
we're in a unique position when we develop or build something, we give away a lot of that IP to the government or to customers. And our ethos is, hey, come back to us for repeat work because you want to come back to us, not because, oh, Albers has that IP, I can't go anywhere else.
Mhm.
So that is a little different from traditional, the commercial marketing or BD because we don't have the, hey, this is our IP to stand our hat on. It makes it very unique in how you have to market and sell capability.
Yeah, but I think that's actually a competitive advantage in some senses, not having such a huge marketing team. We've interviewed people that they have much smaller marketing teams and people that have bigger. But even for us, for example, as a company, we're a small company, but that
Perfect.
actually gives us a different perspective. We move fast and efficiently. And sometimes with these huge companies, a lot of people end up being siloed. And if they don't have good like procedures in place, it can actually be not the best thing, right? So there's so many factors that come into play to that.
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
To your point. So, I was kind of saying that we have to level the playing field, but to your point, there also is an advantage to being a smaller, closer knit team because you're very true on
Mhm.
silos. You even have to watch it at a 20-person team to where things are moving so rapidly at times in industry and marketing that you got to make sure everybody's talking and knows, because you never want to, ping somebody twice, because that just doesn't
Yeah.
look good. So you have to stay coordinated. And I will argue one of our other assets that I'm sure we'll get to as we talk is speed. A lot
Mhm.
of customers say, hey, iteration, speed, fast. So what we like to say is, requirements change in real time. And our success is that we can iterate the fastest.
Mhm.
So to your point, we don't sell the same widget every time. We might sell a blue pen here today, but then tomorrow a customer's like, I want that pen to be black. And instead of saying, oh, that's going to take a month, we get it to them the next day in black. So that's So to us, it's all about being that lean,
Yeah.
very fast knit team. That's really one of our biggest competitive advantages.
And it's where you want to be right now too. I'm noticing a lot of huge corporations are like really cutting down their size because now the way AI is headed and the workflows that you can start implementing, it's kind of crazy. It's exciting, I think there's a lot of pushback from people that are scared of it, but I think it's just the way the future is moving to. So you have to embrace it, and if you don't, you can get lost behind, right?
Very certainly, and I think I'll call it this the SpaceX change, because I've read a lot of articles on that, and I love watching, Elon Musk podcasts, and you know, like take when they had the one rocket launch and it failed, had an
Hmm.
explosion. Some companies they would do an analysis for months of why that happened, and he was like, "Hey, we learned." And think about the culture shift and just thought process that forces to where it's like it's okay to fail
Yeah,
as long as you learn from it quickly and iterate and get a better product out there. That's not how industry was set up for years. And now I think just due to, global competition, global pressure, you have to think differently because other vendors, other companies out there are doing it. And if you are moving fast and constantly iterating products, you're going to get left behind. To your point. So it's
definitely. Now, who are you currently targeting right now? Who are you trying to reach? So, for listeners listening to this, let's say your ideal customer, what does that look like?
so I do a customer, and it's kind of been a transition if you want to think about it. So
Hmm.
I've been at Albers about 2 years now. So I got actually this month 2 years in 2024 I came on board. So
Nice.
the year before we've doubled in size since 2023. So from 23 to the end of 24, we doubled. 24 to the end, 25, we doubled. And then
Wow.
this year, we should more than double.
That's great.
To your point, our target customer set has changed. When we first started, the ethos and philosophy was, let's go help those large primes. So you know who they are out there. It's like, hey, where they have a gap they can't do, like with a skill that maybe got outsourced overseas in the past or whatnot, let's go do that. As we gain success, we still support them. So they're still a core part of our business. We're partnered strategic relationships with a lot of those customer sets. We've now gone more what we call prime contractor, direct to the government, or direct commercially to other entities that are the end user of a system.
Hmm.
So that is really our focus area is growing that brand awareness and those customer sets. And it gets back to the word of mouth thing. The better job we do and the quality products we deliver, they almost become your best marketing people because they go tell other people, hey, you
Yeah.
need to go talk to this company because we're still relatively new. So a lot of people might be like, who's Albers Aerospace? And they Google search. And you can tell because you go have a meeting, you go do something like this with you,
Yeah.
and you get hits. You see it on your website, you see it on LinkedIn, like, hey, what's this company? And then people reach out to you because they also do their own vetting. They're going to go ask around on your brand name, your reputation. So I would argue our target customer set now where we're focusing is direct to the government more. Um, I would argue where we like to play is more what I'll call front leading. So if you think of big Cat 1 programs out there, category ones, that'd be like the F-35s, for example, stuff like that, that the tier one bigs do. Then we support. So we do supply materials to various bigs. Really what we want to focus on is that, like I was saying, that quick reaction, mid-tier work that customer sets need. It adds some challenges playing in that area because, to your point, like we were talking about earlier, the marketing pipeline, we can't look 5 years out and know, hey, we're going to
Hmm.
be delivering this widget in 5 years. It's more almost a complete reset every 2 to 3 years in the pipeline because our turn times of products and materials is a lot quicker. So really what we market and sell as we want to focus to transition to your original question of the government direct or direct to end users is we sell capability.
Hmm.
That's probably our biggest thing is not so much a product or a platform, but more so capability. Hey, if you need expert, model-based system engineering capability, we can bring that. If you need great, very quick system integration, system engineering, as well as complex assembly, we'll bring that. We care less probably about what it is. It's more so how can we help is what we ask. And if we don't have the capability, a big thing to us is transparency and trust. We'll even tell the customer, hey, if we can't do it, we'll go find a way to do it. Or we will go in our Rolodex of people and partners, we will introduce you to who can do it. So
Hmm.
it is a definitely unique marketing strategy we've employed and I think have had good success with.
Right on. And in that industry, what's working for you guys? So you said you're targeting government. What are you guys using to drive brand awareness and pipeline?
Yep. So three things. So we've started to market a little bit. So, think like various trade shows. LinkedIn's been a big area. Our website we rebranded in the last year because you have to have a storefront. You have to have a way for people to see you, do some initial, hey, who is this company? What do they do? What can they bring? We're very careful not to put specifics out there because one thing we pride ourselves in is in that trust. So one thing we tell customers, hey, we're not going to go market, hey, customer A asked us to do this. And you'll see I'm very careful even here to not talk about specific things we've done. So
Yeah, I
they
guess
understand
privacy can be a
yep,
big
yep.
thing, right?
So they understand they have trust in us that we're not going to go pitch that. So what we pitch is capability. So to your point, how we're having success is three core themes to me, what I call the Albers Way. First one is serve and don't sell. So don't push products, like I was kind of talking about. Don't push a platform. Sometimes think about like when you're going to the store to buy something, you don't want the salesperson there to come up and say, "Hey, why don't you buy this?" You're like, "Well, no, I want this over here."
Yeah,
Oh, but
I don't like pushy. That's so
yeah,
true.
yeah. So we don't push. Or like, most people hate the car buying experience. When I'm a big car, I love cars, but most people hate it because you get in there and the salespeople all like jump on you. Um, so we serve, don't sell is our first core theme.
Mhm.
Hey, what are your pain points? How can we help you? Part of that to me is the relationships. Like when I'm talking to someone, I don't want to ping them just when I want to sell them something.
Mhm.
I want to understand. And as you get bigger, it gets harder at times. But I want to understand. Hey, how's your kids doing? I knew they were growing up and they had a football game this weekend. You build that trust
Personal.
both ways, personal relationship, to where then they'll ping you if they have a need. So then they'll start coming to you without having you understand them. The second thing is, as I mentioned, speed is a competitive advantage. You know, traditional timelines, as you mentioned, are broken now. You hear it in the news. We got to compress stuff from years to months. Other people are doing it. And speed is engineered. It's not accidental. That's why you see a lot of these big companies really trying to figure out how to re-wicker their systems to be fast. So to us, our biggest competitive advantage right now that we've had success with is speed. I will tell you, for example, really what set the mark was last year, we were asked to do a very complex product in a short amount of time, 90 days.
Oh wow.
And there was a lot of people that didn't think it could be done in 90 days. And us with a trusted partner and customer did it in 89 days. We met the timeline and succeeded and delivered the product. And that's just a testament to if you work together. And there's roadblocks, there was issues, but so the last thing is transparency and trust that we've been talking about, not transactional touch points. It's that bonds. So then you get to it's a both way communication. Hey, so even the customer you're selling to, how can I help you be successful? How can we be successful together? And so you can knock down roadblocks and issues very, very fast, which then helps sell and market as we go.
Right on. And like roughly what percentage would you say the hot leads you guys get is from word of mouth versus other strategies you're trying to implement, like events or paid ads or anything like that? Because I'm assuming your guys' sales cycles are longer, right? Especially with government
Yeah.
contracts.
Yeah. So if we break it back up into what we were talking about earlier, the traditional side,
Mhm.
typical government process, 18 months, 24 months
Yeah.
acquisition. Now it's changing. They want to get quicker, so they have cells themselves that are going faster.
That's
So to
good.
your question, repeat customer word of mouth for new efforts, I would argue is probably 75+% of our business.
Nice.
So to me, it is all about that customer experience, making sure they're happy, bringing in key employees that have relationships already,
Mm.
to where they can expand our area of influence, our customer sets. It's also understanding the customer culture. So one thing we talk about a lot that, if you Google or looked at Albers Aerospace is culture is everything. John's a big, that Miracle on Ice movie and everything,
Yeah.
so it's we call each other teammates, not, employee, boss, everything from the CEO down to, the receptionist is a teammate. We like to say everybody, if you go back to that old NASA example in Houston, where the one guy walked through there and they asked the janitor, I think, hey, what do you do? He's like, I launch rockets to the moon. Um,
Mm.
that is truly what we want every teammate to say at Albers, because we think culture is paramount. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, they say. So to
100%.
us, we use culture, and that's really how we grow, because and we try to have our culture emulate the customers that we support, to make them feel comfortable as they walk in and they're like, hey, you're an extension of us. How can we be successful? But to your point, we're trying to get more awareness out there, because so even though it's 75% word of mouth or relationships, we want to grow the other side,
Yeah.
because like take the industrials business, there's a lot of capability. You can read the articles. There's a lot of need in defense industrial base for like that old school trade works of metal bending, metal treatment, building containers, complex assemblies, that we actually have the skill sets in the United States. So to your point, that might not necessarily be the relationship word of mouth. That's marketing, advertisement, getting out there. Hey, if you need metalworking done or cable harness assembled and you don't want to outsource it overseas, we have this capability in our facilities in Texas, Idaho, Maryland, Arizona. Come to us and we can help you out. So we're trying to expand that to get that balance a little bit differently.
Yeah, for sure. Now, let's take away the word of mouth out of the equation.
Okay.
Let's say you had to choose one channel that is working the best for you guys, whether that's events, LinkedIn, YouTube, paid search like Google, content marketing, articles. What would you say is the one that's really moving the needle for you guys?
I'd say social media.
Okay.
So to your point, events like this. So thanks again for having me on, as well as because we don't have the giant marketing team. And remember, ours is bigger than other people you've talked with, but we're small compared to people we're competing against or, going after the same stuff for. So, we're looking at certain things like geofence advertisements at shows.
Mm-hmm.
So shows are important, but to me, it's more social media almost as the amplifier to where you might only have 3 people at the show. You might have a smaller booth or whatnot, but we can get ads out on various platforms. So when they, when a user walks to a certain area, hey, they're getting an ad on LinkedIn, or they're seeing an ad on, YouTube that says Albers Aerospace, a different kind of prime. And then and as you might send it to 10 people, one person might click, and then that one person might be the right person. So to us, I would say social media is general. So we really try to publish on, we hit Facebook, we hit Instagram, and LinkedIn, and then X are the primary feeds right now. And then to your point, we want to try to get out, John, myself, others on podcasts, various interviews, really just talking about how we do what we do, to try to help that out.
And that definitely helps build trust as well, right? Because people are getting to know you, getting to know the company. Yeah, that's actually a great tidbit, like basing it around events and then retargeting to the people that were there. That gives you another touch point where, again, you're not being pushy, but they see more about your company, they see value, they see that content, and then that can lead to more leads, right?
Yes, correct. And we've even had, to your point, to cheat a little bit on your question, from the word of mouth, we've had customers say, hey, you really should go to this event, or you really should go to this speaking engagement, because it will get your brand awareness out there. Like they'll do so much, but they're even like, hey, go target here, because there's gonna be a lot of people interested in what you do that we think you can help. So we're really trying to push that marketing side, that other companies I've been at have done it a lot. We're trying to get it here, but we're trying to be smart with how we do it to get the biggest bang for the buck.
And what's your event strategy like? Because I've talked with people that they say just showing up to the event is enough because you could network. Some people get a booth, some people get a speaking engagement. There's so many different factors depending on the event. How are you guys approaching it?
I think that's very good question. One, so I like to say we're looking at it in a 3-pronged approach. So for a while there, we were hitting multiple events, like for us, like 50 plus events, which can get hectic.
Oh, wow. That's a lot, yeah.
And different groups are going. Engineers might just go, PMs might go, BD and marketing go to core events. So what we're trying to do is consolidate down to have a bigger presence at main events in our industry. So industrials ones, defense ones, advanced programs ones, that they expand different ways. And then to your point, how we try to do it is we try to set up engagements before then. So showing up and having those meetings, it might even be after the show, going to have a dinner, going to have a coffee with somebody to build that relationship, hear their pain points. We're trying to get a bigger booth presence and then do some targeted ads. That's really kind of the three-prong approach. At some of the big events, we'll even have a social event in one of the evenings just to say, hey, people come out, 'cause I'm a firm believer in people love stuff. So like if you give out like, hey, a patch, a shirt, like a little coffee mug,
Mhm.
people bring it along. And then one thing I've seen throughout my career is, like little challenge coins. They're sitting there at their desk or whatnot, like, man, I got this problem. And then they look down and see your thing, they're like, oh, let me go ping Rich. I remember him. He did XYZ. So I think that's a big thing. So that's what we're trying to do is we're actually, to your point, trying to tackle all three. Showing up and
Mhm.
being there, meeting with people, networking, having a booth presence, just so as people walk, because you're going to get some of the people just walking past. I always equate it to the grocery store where they use the end caps.
Yeah.
They always put the stuff that's like impulse buys on the end caps. So it's very similar to a booth to me. You
Mhm.
have the engagements, but then if you have the booth there with your banners, somebody walking past might think, ooh, that looks interesting. Let me go over there and see what they're about. So you want to hit that, and then also targeted ads, like we talk. So we'll have like a banner there that says, hey, sponsor of this event. But really, to me, it's how can we use social media and AI capabilities to touch a larger audience. So one of the big things I like is that geofence ads to where somebody comes into the show, bam, they get an Albers ad that just says, hey, people first, mission always, stuff like that, the Albers way, and it makes them want to go learn more.
Right on. And in your personal opinion, are business cards dead or no? Not yet.
So I still have them. I can tell you most, and I try to hand them out just like people hand them out to me, but I can't recall really the last time I pulled out a business card to contact somebody. I think it's changed. I'll say it that
Yeah.
way. Typically, you'll get somebody's phone number, and that's how it is now. It's like a
Yeah.
text. You
Or
might
or
get
e- or even a LinkedIn, right?
like some people just have barcodes, and they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
scan my barcode." So
Hmm.
it pulls in all that data. So I think business cards aren't dead yet, but it reminds me of, they're going the way of the printed newspaper, I'd almost say. So there's still a very traditional audience that will, and I'm one of them. I still like reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
But most people get their data now from X or from online sources.
Yeah, like more recently, everyone's like, "Oh no, I don't have a business card. Like, here, just add me on LinkedIn," and they pass me their phone.
You have to adapt. I'll say it that way. It's a lesson in adaptation.
For sure. Tell me about the tools you use, or workflows. What tools are you guys currently using as a marketing team?
Perfect. So, we use, of course, to create marketing material, Adobe, various tools there, from our marketing team. I mean, from our graphics folks. From a traditional process, Salesforce is a big one we use. Um, GovAI, GovDash. There's also a few things that we've homegrown created, like AI scrubbing tools, that use ChatGPT, use Grok, and go out and say, hey, with keywords, it's kind of like where you used to get the reports that you could sign up for on all these different sites.
Mm.
Now you almost have an AI tool that runs a script each morning and it pulls that up, whether it's articles, whether it's, hey, this just got posted as an request for information, or hey, do you want to respond to this or go to this show? So that's kind of how I bucket our tools is Salesforce, Adobe and various graphics tools to create proposals in those areas. And then also GovDash is a big one, for being able to pull data, help respond to proposals using AI, because a lot of the government has, you know, information rules that you can't just use open source data. So you got to have a specialized tool. And then even traditional ChatGPT, Grok, all those different ones help. Um, and then of course traditional Microsoft Office tools.
Right
I'll
on.
never
Yes.
not to pry Excel from my hands. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Well, I
love
still use all
Excel.
those too. Yeah.
I love that. So that's kind of the tools we're using as far as workflows. If you go back to like Shipley process, the big one, a traditional gate system. So you have investigate, identify, pursue, non pursue, bid, no bid, as it moves through the cycle, like that long-term cycle we talked about. And then of course, once it's awarded, or lost, once awarded, then you have the gates for execution. So we
Mm.
do have that traditional thing. And then one thing we have that's unique is we can tailor it, whether it's the marketing BD side to a quick turn or not. Because even take the marketing cycle dealing with the government, a lot of times it might be a 3-month proposal or a 2-month proposal. Where we're really having success is I just got an email this morning before I got on here to chat with you, that they said, hey, we're going to send you a request for proposal. We're going to need it back in a week. So the cycle time has gone from, I
Fast
remember,
turnaround.
yeah, I
Wow.
remember 10 years ago, we were, pulling our hair out saying, man, they need this in a month. And now the turn
Yeah.
has gone from a month down to a week response time. So it's constantly evolving the tool sets we use. So we try to, so hopefully that answered your question, but
Yeah,
it
100%.
depends.
And what's your biggest challenge you guys are facing right now in terms of marketing?
I would argue as we have more success in the market was how do we keep speed? So to your point, as you grow your customer influence, the network, your market share or the markets you're touching, it's how do we keep where certain markets over here want that 7 day, 1 week turn, and then
Mhm.
a market over here might want a 3 month turn. So to me, the biggest challenge we're trying to figure out from a marketing BD standpoint is how can you answer the needs in both arenas? So so like we were talking about, it's having tools and workflows because that's very important. You want a consistent, repeatable product that it's high quality. So,
Mhm.
but how can you tailor it to where you have the robustness and need all the data they want over here, but then over here you can still give high quality but go very fast. So we have a lot of conversations, internal debates of how do we build the ecosystems and can be a company that's known to move fast and deliver great quality. So what I would argue and say is when we ask ourselves every week on this challenge is, we lean forward, but where do we need to invest? Because we're going to invest where needed, and disciplined ways to say yes. So John Albers always used to say, find a way to get to yes. And what that means isn't, and it's from the marketing standpoint of yes, we can solve your problem.
Yeah.
And that might mean, yes, we could solve your problem because we have a critical partner over here, or we can solve your problem because we'll go invest in the capability, or we already have it and we can do it. And I like to do that in the way integrity is everything to me.
Mhm.
It's a non-negotiable trait. So we don't want to oversell. That's part of moving fast. Like know what we can do and know what we can't do,
Yeah.
and always be that honest broker for them to come back. But that's our biggest challenge is with success and growth, how do you stay true to what got you to where you are? Because you
Mhm.
see stories all the time, how did companies, lose their way and great companies,
Yeah.
lessons.
Especially as they scale, it gets much harder because you have to get everyone in line with the same vision, right?
Correct. And one of my favorite books is Lessons from the Titans. That was
Mhm.
some actually Wall Street analysts wrote the book, and they do case studies on some big companies over time. That it's always a cycle. They get big, they do great, and a lot of times it's based on leaders. So it's how can you, if a leader retires, continue that trajectory, that growth. And a lot of it is, to your point, you always have to keep reinventing yourself, reminding yourself of how you got to where you were, even as you scale, and stay true to your roots.
Mhm.
So I think that's our biggest challenge, I would say, is staying true to our roots and continuing to be fast as we grow. Because as you know, as you get bigger, stuff invariably wants to slow down. So it's how to challenge yourself to think differently.
Yeah, 100%. And what's an experiment or lesson that surprised you?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the biggest one to me, and I've seen it a success in the past, but some companies, and like I could kind of even see it on your face a little bit when I said when we started, hey, one of our biggest things we decided not to do was give full government rights and or customer rights to anything we design or build. And a lot of people, when you say that, they're like, what? Like they have that crazy look, like, like, have you guys got hit on the head? Like you're basically giving away IP. And the reason to that, and it was an experiment, it's like, hey, if you truly want to be transparent and say, hey, we want to be partners. So you're paying us to design something. We have some IP in it, but we're going to give you the rights. And as long as you have a great customer experience, the experiment was they'll come back.
Oh yeah.
And they come back because they want to, not because they have to. What I'll say is it's been very, very successful to date. And actually the government has been very happy on that like, hey, they're coming back to us because they want to, not because they have to.
For sure. And that makes a lot of sense actually because with these government companies, now they own that process. They're going to come back to you because you're adding so much value. It's just it would not make sense to go with someone else that wants like 50% stake or they want the ownership of what they're building too, right?
And even think, not just to the government, because we support other large primes.
Mhm.
What they don't want is, let's say they have a giant program and now they're reliant on a customer to deliver something, but they can only go back to that customer. And we look at it differently. Like, we were actually in a meeting 2 weeks ago, and they were asking, hey, so what would you suggest? Should we buy this all from you or other people? And we're like, no, it would make sense to have multiple sources of a product, because that's what the customer needs. That's what the end user needs. Now, don't get me wrong, we would like the majority of
Yeah.
that product, but it wouldn't make sense from your side. And this gets back to the integrity and the transparency. Put ourselves in their shoes. It wouldn't make sense that you can only buy a pen from Rich, because you're going to need, let's say, 80,000 pens a year.
Yeah.
It would make sense to have more than one source for that. So to us, it's by being that honest broker, it gives them a comfort level that, hey, we're not locked in, so let's trust them and give them more stuff, because they'll help us solve it. And if they can't do it, their word is their bond. They'll help us get someone else that can. So ironically, that was probably the most risky experiment, I'll say. When I came aboard and John and I were talking and we said, hey, how do we do this differently? And it was like, well, what was one of your big pain points of your acquisition? And his first thing was vendor lock and IP. And I said, well, hey, how about we give it away? And he was like, oh, I love that. Because John is very, one of the things that I love coming, very infectious, the ethos and the, hey, let's always do what's best for the customer.
Mm.
That's always what he says. He loves to say that he bleeds red, white, and blue, and then green, is one of his sayings. If you take care, now it's a defense focused mind, but you can say it for commercial too. If you take care of the customer, they'll take care of you, because they're going to want your product and that experience. So that was our experiment. And to date, it's worked very, very well.
That's so true. Wow. All right, let's go to a quick fire round.
Sure.
Why don't you tell me a marketing book, resource, or tool you recommend?
So it's for me, a good marketing book, and it's not exactly a marketing book, but I love Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Oh.
And really what it makes me remember and think about, and there's so many good books. I love Winning by Jack Welch. I have a whole bookshelf over here that I read when I travel on planes. But the Good to Great, the big thing that helps me with marketing is basically the moral story is, good is always the biggest barrier to being great. And so that's one thing. So I take from it, always continue to want to learn and continue to want to get better. And the other thing, which helps with marketing and sales, so how can I market better? How can I build a better product? How can I answer the needs better? The other thing is, know what you're great at and really stay focused on answering that arena. Because there's a lot of companies you see, they're like, hey, I developed X. Oh, why don't I build Y? And then once they expand, A, they might not be able to build Y that well, but then they start to suffer on X.
They
So
split their attention.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing that reminds me is stay focused on what you do well and great, because that's what the customer wants and needs. So
Mm,
that's probably the book off the top of my head I would throw out there for
nice.
anybody that wants to read it.
Who's someone who's recently influenced your marketing? It could be a personality or someone internally. It can be anyone that comes to mind.
So I would probably say off the top of my head is John is our CEO and founder. We always have great conversations. So he started to adapt some of my sayings like speed of need. I've started to handle his, which is, which I kind of had some, but he's really made me even think of it differently, which is he likes to say we run towards gunfire. And what he means by that is where a lot of people would be tentative because there's a chance you could fail. He's like, that's not what I want us to do. I want us to always be aggressive and go where needed. So
Mm.
it changes your marketing dynamic, because instead of sitting there, if a customer says, hey, can you do this? And you're like sitting there going, well, it's not really something we've done in the past. It changes that thought process to say, yes, we can find a way to do it for you, whether we do it or not. So that's really, helped change it. I think the other big thing from a customer lens that's affected my marketing recently was they even when it says, hey, your biggest hook is your speed. You iterate fast. So what they said was, because when you have great success, like that effort I told you about that we got done very quickly, there's almost a desire you want to keep succeeding. So then you almost want to back off and be more risk averse. And they said, hey, don't lose that we love coming to you because you're aggressive. You're not afraid to fail because you're going to solve it very quickly and keep moving forward. So So I would say that's probably the three things, John's thing, as well as the customer feedback on those two things that help me keep that aggressive mindset from marketing standpoint, I would say.
It's a great mentality for sure. And last question, advice you'd give to your younger self.
So to me, it gets back to, like I said, the integrity is everything. Don't sell and serve. So a big lesson to me is, as you know, my trajectory, I started in engineering, started in program management. You don't have to worry about selling. You don't have to worry about marketing. It's very good there. When I got thrown into that marketing BD realm because someone left the company, I remember I went and had a meeting with a customer I know. And so then I pinged them after. I said, well, how do you think it good? I'm new to this. They go, Rich, you came off as a used car sales. And I was like, whoa. I was like, gosh, I never would want to do that. And they're like, hey, don't oversell. So to me, like what I would tell my younger self is integrity is everything. Build the relationship first. And if you take care of the customer, they'll take care of you. Mm-hmm. And luckily I had someone that I got that feedback from right away, that helped me calibrate because it was a trusted, friend that I had built that relationship from execution side. But, that's the biggest thing I would tell myself is, hey, as you market, or I would tell other people, trust in your product, trust in the relationship and who you are as a person, that you don't have to oversell. Stand on your reputation, what you've done in the past, and what you can bring to the customer set, and that will sell itself.
Right on. Love that. Let's end on that note. Rich, thank you so much for your time. This was a great episode.
No, thank you. And like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I love what you're doing here. I love your podcast, and hopefully you continue it and then continue to help the marketing and, and B2B strategies, because I think it's very important. And as the industry changes, hearing different people and their philosophies, I think it's important for all of us to continue to learn. So thank you for having me.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Rich. Bye.
Take care. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. I hope you found valuable insights to help you grow your brand and scale with confidence. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Want to unlock the power of podcasting for your business? Visit jonystudios.com. That's JONY studios.com, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode.